into the inspiration business.
Yeah.
Discouragement comes to mind in terms of the degree of the discouragement, I'll include myself in that,
Absolutely.
to actually decide to go the other way and to maybe, commit ourselves to that.
Absolutely. I think in many ways, the passion that people see when I speak and the passion that people have commented on that I've been able to project as I go across this world, really sharing this message, that the passion is really pain in disguise in a lot of ways. And I know, growing up in Baltimore City and living a certain way, now that I have certain rewards in my life, how, the past just doesn't change. And things and circumstances and even things that continue to be my present, and I found that you have to really turn the things that are going on into your life and turn it into a story, into a testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is something to be said for that. And absolutely, comedians, I think what comedians do is sort of like what inspirational speakers seek to do.
Really.
Using their message to help others.
Yeah.
And that message a lot of times starts with despair.
Mm-hmm. Well, you used the word message, Darrell. What is your message? I mean, if you could put your message into a sentence or two, what would it be?
That you don't have to be a product of your environment. You can be a product of your imagination. I mean, that's my simple message. That and when you become a product of your imagination, you can make your environment a product of you. And I think that we've seen this throughout history. We've seen this now, time and time again, in the current trends. And this is something that will continue to be. That when you begin with your mind to change your thinking, your life will change as well.
It's really interesting because I know that your general philosophical orientation is Judeo-Christian.
Yes.
And I happen to be a Buddhist.
Okay.
But one of the messages...
I didn't even know that.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But one of the messages in Buddhism is kind of like work on the inside, and then the outside is going to reflect your inner state, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And to be an influence in a positive way on all that's out there, as opposed to, the other way, which is Charlie Sheen, dictating.
And I heard it puts this one way. I don't know exactly who said it, but this was, I thought, so profound. It said, greatness is never achieved except by those who dare to believe that something on the inside of them is greater than their circumstances. And I think that that's so key, that, greatness, again, is never achieved except by those who dare to believe that something on the inside of them is greater than their circumstances. And, it's interesting that the title of the show is Breaking Through. A breakthrough moment for me was my introduction to Christianity. My introduction to seeing that there was something on the inside of me that was greater than my circumstances. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so you're saying that actually those messages of faith come maybe religiously, but do you think that they come primarily religiously or they could come circumstantially to someone? In other words, maybe, I guess the image that people use sometimes is the idea of hitting bottom. People hit bottom and then they kind of bounce up again if they're lucky. Or the analogy where two people in similar circumstances going to jail for 6 years, and at the end of 6 years, one is a fully hardened criminal and the other person is completely reformed. And what's the difference? Somehow the messages that one person gave themselves or received from others intervened in that experience and created something positive from it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it would have had to have started with the inside. And I know we'll talk more about this as we get into, really how to be a product of your imagination. One of the stories that I take with me as I travel across this country, a good friend of mine, actually, who went to Harvard Law School as well, he made the decision to go to Harvard Law School when he was sitting in a jail cell. I mean, this is a true story. He was sitting in a jail cell.
Was he in your class?
He actually graduated 3 years before I did. And he now has a phenomenal life as a Wall Street lawyer. And but it's funny that or ironic, I should say, that his journey started in that jail cell, and he said that's where he made the decision to change his life.
Well, that's really the irony, is that his journey started in the jail cell, ended up on Wall Street instead of the other way around, which is
yes, unfortunately, they need to be watching a show about breaking through. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to go the opposite way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Darrell, because I I didn't really expect us to be talking about religion necessarily, but I think that it's inescapable. When we're talking about faith, we're going to talk a little bit about religion, but this is, by no means is intended as an infomercial on religion or anything like that. Yeah. But in terms of looking at the role models, the examples that exist in religion, or people who kind of are in the inspiration business, and then something goes wrong. You know, those examples. I mean, what goes wrong with, I know, like the pastor, and was he in D.C. or Baltimore? And, you know, what goes wrong when people seem to be kind of delivering this message of breaking through in faith, and then all of a sudden they start victimizing others? I mean, do you have any insights into that?
Well, I do. I think several things. One, you know, I don't know who said it, but, you know, something to the effect of, well, we're all hypocrites, you know. I think there's no one person who could say that they always are doing the best thing, you know, even if that's their intention. So I think that's where we all have to remember that, well, where we all have to sort of start, that we're all human. Everybody makes mistakes. And that I think even those who make a living sort of telling others, you know, I don't want to say how they should live their lives, but telling others how they live their lives and how others can sort of see success, that they also are the same, you know, they bleed the same way. They also, you know, have the same sort of carnality that we do. And that I think that when we recognize that, we're able to, as a public, be more forgiving and more understanding. I think really that's where it starts. Because to me, the problem isn't as much in the individual as it is also in those around them that sort of make it worse.